Hi, I'm Rebecca from engVid. I'm so glad you clicked on this lesson because today's lesson is one of the most important lessons ever. Why? Because this mistake that I'm going to tell you about is one of the most frequently made mistakes, unfortunately, not only by English learners, but also by English speakers. So hey, if there are any English speakers watching this, please keep watching because you would like to correct this too. But for the English learners, it's even more important because you're doing exams, you're going for job interviews, and people are judging your English a little bit more critically. Okay? So, what are we going to talk about today? We're talking about subject and object pronouns. Now, I know that doesn't sound very sexy, but it's so important that you get it right because it's a very basic mistake. All right? And I hope that after this lesson, you will get it right. I'm going to do my best to explain it to you so you completely get it. Okay? Here we go. All right. So, first of all, what's a subject and what's an object? And what's a pronoun? Because I said subject, object, pronouns. There are 3 words there, okay? They're kind of like grammar words. So the subject of a sentence in English is the doer of the action. Okay? It's the person that does the action. And the object receives the action. Okay? I'm going to explain it to you exactly, give you an example and everything, no problem. All right? And what's a pronoun? A pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun. So for example, I could say John. Okay? John likes me. Or I could say he likes me. So he replaced John. All right? Now, let's look at this chart because here what I've written for you are basically all the subject pronouns and all the object pronouns. Okay? Now, what's the problem? The problem is that sometimes people are using object pronouns when they should be using subject pronouns and vice versa. So sometimes they're using subject pronouns when they should be using object pronouns. All right? So let's see how this works. So in this sentence, I love movies, right? The I is a subject. It's doing the action. The action is love. All right? So this is a subject pronoun, right? But in this sentence, please call me. The subject is understood as you, but the action is being received to me. Please call me. So me is an object pronoun. Okay? I'm going to give you so many examples that you're going to get it, even if you didn't get it yet. Okay? Let's try it with this little rhyme. And you can say it along with me if you want, if it helps you to kind of get that rhythm in your head. All right? Because language is not about rules and all of that only. It starts with that. But finally, it becomes about the rhythm and whether it's going to sound right to your ear. So let's say these sentences and we're going to run through them with all of these examples. Okay? Here we go. For example, I like Jack. Jack likes me. Okay? I like Jack. Subject, I. Jack likes me. Object. You like Jack. Jack likes you. Here you can see with the word you that it's the same. Okay? So there we don't usually make mistakes because it's the same. Here, he likes Jack. Jack likes him. Okay? She likes Jack. Say it with me. Jack likes her. We like Jack. Jack likes us. They like Jack. Jack likes them. Okay? So what do you notice? That all of these subject pronouns usually come at the beginning of a sentence, and the object pronouns usually come towards the middle or end of a sentence. Okay? You'll see that. And that's how it is. And there are a few other patterns which I'll show you. So let's look at some examples, okay? So we said the first one already. I love movies, subject. We live here, right? Also subject, yeah. You see it up there? She studies hard, right? Subject, yeah. All of these are subjects. They watch videos like you are doing right now. They is the subject. And I hope if you're watching this video that you also subscribe to my channel because I keep giving you all of these kind of shortcut lessons that will really save you a lot of time and years in learning English. Okay, so subscribe. He and I are good friends. Now, look what happens here. Here it was pretty straightforward, right? Yeah, of course. I know, Rebecca. I know what the subject is. But here, sometimes people get confused when we have more than one subject. So here it was he and I. But these are still the subjects. So we still have to take the word from here, take the pronoun from up here, and not from down here. So we have to say he and I. Now, why do we say he and I and not I and he? Because usually in English, we're very polite. We let other people go first through the door, and we also let other people go first in the sentence. All right? So even if it was 5 people, like she, he, and I, okay, they and I, but I comes last. All right? So that's how it is. But the most important thing is not just where the I is, but that you're saying I and you're not saying me. So you cannot say he and me. No. Not if you're talking about the subject. You have to say he and I. And if you're not sure, what you can do is take out that other person or people and just say, I am good friends. That makes sense. But if I said, me am good friends, no, that doesn't sound right. Correct? So that's one way we can tell. Sometimes people make the same mistake here. Instead of saying he, they'll say him. Him and I. No, again, him belongs on the other side, the object, right? Not the subject. All right, so that's something else. Now let's go to the other side and look at some examples of the objects and how we usually use them. So please call me, right? Receiving the action of the call. I thank them. Now in this sentence, we have a subject and an object, right? What's the subject? I, right? Subject. Because I'm doing the action. I thanked. And I thanked who? Them. Okay? So this here is the object. All right? Again, this tends to usually be at the beginning of a sentence. That tends to be at the end of a sentence. Now, another very important clue is when you have a preposition. So whatever follows the preposition should be what? The objects. And the mistake that I'm hearing a lot on TV and in writing, on the internet and so on, is that people are after the prepositions are using these subject pronouns. And that's wrong. That's incorrect. Like, especially if you're doing an exam or you're writing a job application, that's a bad mistake to make. Okay, so don't make that one. So let's look at the example. Give it to John and me. Okay, so after to, so that's to is the preposition. Give it to John and me. Okay, because it's the object we want, not John and I. And again, if you're not sure, take out John and say, do we usually say give it to I? No. We say give it to me. Okay? To me, for me, after me, before me. All right? Any preposition after that, you're going to use the object pronoun. You got it. Another example, she works for us. Again, after the preposition, you want to use the object pronoun, us, not for, we. And also, after the verb to be, we usually use these object pronouns. Now, in the old days, like in Shakespeare, somebody might say, it is I. But usually, we don't say that anymore. We just say, it's me. Okay, it's him. So we're using the object pronouns after the verb to be. It's me. Okay, object pronoun. It's them. Object pronoun. All right? I hope you're beginning to see a lot of the correct patterns, that the subjects go first, the objects go usually towards the end. The subject does the action, the object receives the action. And if you have a compound subject, don't mix them up, okay? Don't take something from here and then something from here. No. Don't do that, all right? Just take subjects. And on that side, just take objects, all right? This is really, really important. You might want to write out some sentences, write out lots of sentences. If you want, you can put them down in the comments or whatever. But let's practice a little bit more to make sure that you've got it. Okay, are you ready to own this subject? Here we go. All right. So I made it a little bit easier for you. I kept the chart. Okay. In fact, you might want to copy this chart in your notes. I think it's very helpful to see it visually, see it as being different, right? The subjects up there, the objects down here. All right. But now let's try to apply them. Here we go. Number 1. Do we say, he and I went out for dinner? Or do we say, him and me went out for dinner? Which one is right? If you need to, you can pause the video, think about it, come back, okay? And if not, just stay along with me. Here we go. What's the answer? The correct answer is the first one. He and I went out for dinner. Okay? So this is wrong. Why? Because this is the subject, right? The subject of the sentence, the doer of the action. So we want the subject pronouns, which are up here. He and I. And of course, I explained to you before that I goes last. All right? Next, why are you looking at she or why are you looking at her? Okay, unfortunately, we hear this question a lot in the world. All right, so what should it be? Which one is right? It should be, this is correct, this is wrong. Okay, first, it's towards the end, right? Second, it's also after a preposition, at her, right? So after a preposition, you need to use the object pronouns, not the subject pronouns, all right? At her, to her, for her, with her, all right? Good. Next, number 3. She and my sister are friends, or her and my sister are friends. Which one is right? By now, you should know it like that in a heartbeat, right? Tell me, which one is it? Okay, which one should I cancel? This one, okay? And this is correct, all right? This is good. We'll just give that. All right, so she and my sister. Why she? Because this is the subject, all right? Subject, not object, all right? She and my sister. Good. Number 4. Please return the book to he, or please return the book to him. Think, subject or object? Is it at the beginning? No. Is it at the end? Yes. Is it after a preposition? Yes. So what does it need to be? It's an object. Okay. What's the object? Him, not he. So we will cancel he and we will circle him as being the right answer. Please return the book to him, for him, with him. Okay. All of those. Before him, after him. All right. All of those. Next. I bought this for we, or I bought this for us. Which is correct? Again, analyze. What's the subject of this sentence? The subject or the doer of the action is I. Okay? This is the subject. I bought, right? This is the verb. I bought this for. So now we need an object. So it should be us and not we. Okay? For us. Because we is the subject pronoun and us is the object pronoun. I know, it seems like we're saying it again and again, but that's how our brain remembers. All right. Next, me and her work together, or you tell me the right answer. Okay? Because this is wrong. All right? Me is an object pronoun, but here we have the subject. Her is an object pronoun, and yet we hear these kind of sentences completely wrong. Okay, 2 object pronouns instead of 2 subject pronouns. So what are the correct subject pronouns we should use here? So instead of me, we should use what? I. Instead of her, we should use she. Right? Yes. But do we say I and she work together? No. So we also have to do a little switch there, right? And you need to say she and I. Okay? She and I work together. This is totally, totally wrong. Even if you hear it in a movie or in a show, or if you read it on the internet, it's wrong. And it'll always be wrong. It's actually considered very poor English. So you really don't want to make this kind of mistake. Okay? So if you want to practice this and master this very important subject, okay, go to our website, www.engvid.com. Immediately do the quiz. And before you go there, sorry, 1 second, please subscribe, okay? Because that way you can shortcut your English, okay? You can learn faster, okay? You can learn lots of shortcuts. So you learn much faster the most important things, not everything. You don't need to learn everything, but there are some key things you do need to learn. And that's what I teach you in my lessons, okay? Then go to engVid, do the quiz, and check out the more than 1,000 lessons that we have there for you, okay? Find the things that you need and focus on those. Wish you all the best with your English, really, always. Bye for now.